So this is really alarming, and I've had a couple of people say that when they've gone on some travels, places that had like rivers or had areas where they had maybe running water or water that is, if it's not running, it's there's water. And so I have mentioned about shortages of water. So before and after pictures, this is see how Mississippi River and its tributaries are running low. And so this is pretty alarming. So this is our world. Um, and we had helium, lithium running out um, in very short supply that could affect MRI. Um, in MRI machines in hospitals where they may have to shut down because they have such a low supply of helium. And then, you have countries fighting over water and weaponizing it. Russia trying to keep water from Ukraine and back and forth fighting over water, fresh water. Um, and then you have these wildfires they're trying to prevent in the state of California. And here you have where you might have an interruption of power outages that will happen because of that. And so this is pretty scary. And then you have gas going up, there's fighting over that, and fighting over oil, which is some of the stuff has always been a fight, but it's escalated. And so before and after, see how the Mississippi River and the tributaries have dropped to a record low. And so they have photos where you can see the effects of this and how bad this is over time. Um, so this is by Angela Fritz and Brandon Miller, CNN. Okay, and so these things are real. And so photos and satellite imagery from central US show how the region's worst drought in at least a decade has pushed the Mississippi River and tributaries to drop to a record low this month. So across the river basin, there's dozens of gauges that have fallen their lowest threshold ever. So the Mississippi River was at a historic low level from Illinois to Louisiana this week, and so many of the gauges will continue to see decreasing water levels as the forecast remains stubbornly dry. So drone video will show Mississippi River near Memphis shows how far the mighty river was contracted away from its banks. And so you can see in those photos, so the river dropped to a minus 10.75, I believe, feet there earlier this week, according to the data National Weather Service, which was the lowest level ever recorded in Memphis. And so they're basically showing you where some places that you couldn't walk before because it was water filled, now you can actually walk there and you can stand on it. And so that's how low it is. And so this somehow they're showing some photos you can see, and I'm kind of panning back and forth. I don't know if you're seeing the images that I'm seeing. Hopefully you are, at least some of it, and you see what it was before and how it has dried up. And so the drought expanded again, it said this week, across the Midwest and the South, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. So half of the contagious U.S. Is contagious U.S. I say contagious. Contagious U.S. is covered by moderate or worse drought conditions as well. So the third highest value of the year. so far, and the highest since March. So more than 134 million people are affected by the drought conditions the monitor reports, which is the highest percent population since 2016. So the Midwest has seen a worse deterioration, with the amount of area covered in the drought increasing by a area of about 60,000 square miles, which is equivalent to the size of Georgia. And so tracking the drought across the U.S. And so they have a map. I don't know if you're seeing it somewhat as clear. They show you abnormally dry, moderate, severe, and extreme drought and exceptional drought. And so you're seeing anything that you see in the red is exceptional drought. Anything in faintly red is extreme drought. And then severe drought is the rest of it. And the lightest one is just the moderate drought, but you see more red showing, or more of the darker reds, and that's not a good sign. And so topsoil moisture continues to dry out across portions of Ohio Valley, Corn Belt. Drought Tracker reported on Thursday, adding that deeper soil moisture remains very low all across much of the Mississippi Valley, and so the dry conditions and saying have taken a severe toll not only on the Mississippi but the rivers that flow into it. And so before and after satellite imagery of the National Weather Service shows at how rivers have receded as well from the banks since July 14th to October 17th. So the Mississippi River, Kentucky, Ban, and New Madrid, Missouri. And so they show, like, if you can see how those, you may not can see them very clear, but you can look at it at your own leisure. So in Nebraska, aerial photos will also show the Plate River that flows across the state and empties into the Mississippi and almost completely dried up in some locations. So the river has vanished. And Kearney, Nebraska, and dry sand is all that has left. The water usually flows there, but several inches of rain are possible over the next weeks in the central U.S., according to the National Weather Service, which could provide some relief, particularly for the Mississippi River tributaries. But long-term outlook is drier than average, so the seasonal drought outlook, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, calls for the region's drought to persist through all the way to January. And so that's just giving you a look at, just take a look at this. Water was here. And you see that little truck on that little bridge, and it's like nothing but a desert. I know it looks scary, but it's showing you over 2 feet this week, only around a foot. Record low 0.92 feet in July of 2012. So this is what you're looking at. What used to have water is now like this. Um, and looking at this picture as well, these were areas that had water, and now it's a drought conditions cover 98% of Nebraska and more than 40% of the worst two categories. That's what you're seeing here. See, these areas that look like they look like a little desert or a little mountain area or whatever. It wasn't. It had water flowing there, and that's why they made the bridges to go over it. But now it's going over like what looks like a little mountain desert, and so that doesn't look good at all. So people should be looking at this, but they're not really talking so much about it. And so what do? Hide things from people, don't say anything, pretend like everything's okay until something horrible happens. So that's the way the US is. It feels like well, if it isn't hurting anybody, we won't say anything about it right now. And so that's not good either. But the river's low levels have allowed people to walk on foot to Tower Rock. CNN has previously reported this. And so an island in the middle of the Mississippi River, South St. Louis, that is typically only accessible by boat. So that's what I was telling you. It used to have water. Now people can actually stand on it. And that's not good. It was supposed to be where you would have to get on a boat and go across it. But now, if you can stand in it, then something's really, really seriously wrong. But the low levels are also allowing salt water in the Gulf of Mexico to creep up to the Mississippi. And the Army Corps is now building a 1,500-foot wide water levee to keep salt water or the salt that keeps the salt out of the drinking water of Louisiana. So see how that is affecting Louisiana is now. You got to worry if Louisiana is going to be suffering from a water shortage or fresh water shortage. That is. Additionally, just as the record low water levels in Lake Mead have revealed several sets of human remains. Okay, so a woman walking the banks of the Mississippi River the weekend discovered bones that turned out to be human remains. This is what the officials have said. And so the remains include a lower jaw bone, rib bone, and some unidentified bone pieces. So that's a story within a story. And so they've found things. So low water levels are allowed treasure hunters to comb the shoreline of the Mississippi River on October 18th near Portageville, Missouri. So you see this right here. Okay, what are we looking at? Look at this. Water was here, not anymore. And look how it has dried up. And so, um, the Tennessee Valley Authority announced this week that it would release more water from two dams to help supplement water levels on the Mississippi River. Cairo, Illinois, the Mississippi is approaching its lowest river level since 1901. The agency noted this is on the Facebook page, and nobody's really looking, unless they really are really paying attention to how this is affecting, and it could affect millions and millions of people in the world. To help stabilize commercial navigation conditions on the lower Ohio and Mississippi rivers, we are scheduling special water releases from Kentucky Dam on the Tennessee River and the Barkley Dam on the Cumberland River to help lower to help the low river level impacts. And so Travis Bricky, a spokesperson for TVA, tells CNN the water from the dam is typically released on a fluctuating basis as they operate on uh, uh, generate stop cycle. Okay, but for the foreseeable future, the dams are releasing a consistent flow of water to help counteract the impact of ongoing drought that it is having on water levels. Okay, so you see how water is becoming the issue. Look at this here. Low water restrictions on the barge loads make for cautious navigation through Mississippi River in Vicksburg, Mississippi on October 11th because you need water so you can run your boats. And if it's really low, then you can't use the boats, you know, not effectively, you know. So this is what you see here. So the low water level on the Mississippi comes at a crucial time of the year for the transport of crops. Think about that. From the nation's heartland, CNN previously reported the Army Corps and engineers have been dredging portions of the river to keep traffic flowing, albeit at a much slower pace. Hundreds of barges and vessels have been queuing up this month, waiting for all clear to pass through the treacherous low river. And so that is what is happening. I believe that's the whole article. But just looking at it, how serious and how dire just the elements that we don't even think about and take for granted. They're drying up, they're in short supply, or they are getting contaminated, they're undrinkable, might not be safe for you anymore. That this could happen. This is happening. That they're trying to find solutions to pump more water back in. And then you got places where they're fighting on who gets the clean, fresh drinking water and who doesn't. This is what people are not seeing. This is what we're not hearing about enough, but it affects all of us. I really do believe this will somehow have a ripple effect on many, many, many households, millions of people worldwide, globally. This is your money here. Water. Water is life. And if people are fighting to decide who gets it, what does that say about the future and what's to come? What does that say about the future? It isn't good. I can tell you that much. It isn't good when you have people fighting over who gets to drink fresh water, who gets to live in an area that has a decent water supply, and who doesn't. And so that is what people should be concerned about, that this right here has gotten so far out of control that one day you might see these rivers dry up, and then you'll have only a small portion of area that has water and some filtration, and people will use that and weaponize it, as we see what has happened between Russia and Ukraine over water and who gets to drink fresh water, who gets to live, who gets to live.